Hello and welcome back to TNN's coverage of the world's 9 best fantasy football players league. I'm your host, and this is what we have for you this week. Week 2 saw a bunch of teams making big blockbuster trades. To see how each team was thinking about the trades, TNN reached out for comment.
Hey guys, Miguel Manel here, defensive coordinator of the one, the only, the historic franchise, Undefeated Never Lost. I've been asked to comment on our recent trade for a bunch of picks for Breece Hall with Joe. Just want to say that, I'm going to make this quick, just want to say that this does not mean that we're not competing anymore. We just wanted to go a different direction with our roster construction, maybe aim for some more young stud wide receivers and use our draft picks to get an older guy like an Aaron Jones, Raheem Mostert, something like that. So if you have any of those guys, Derrick Henry, hit me up. We got a bunch of stuff that we can trade for them. What I do want to talk about today is something that I know that TNN will not bring into attention. And I know what you're thinking right now. Miguel, you always take these opportunities to talk about yourself and about your team. You love listening to your own voice. And you're right. That's fair. That's a fair criticism. And I'm going to make this video a lot longer than it's supposed to be, of course. But you're wrong that I want to talk about myself or my team. I had the opportunity to do so. This is actually a historic week for the most historic franchise. This is the first time that Undefeated Never Lost has ever scored above 200 points, which I am absolutely sure, I didn't check on this, but that makes us the last team to have crossed this threshold 3 years into the league. What I do want to talk about is something a lot more important, and it's how good Mike Visconti's team has looked recently. No one talks about how important it is to be 5th place in this league. 5th place, it's really just a prize for mediocrity. It is the epitome of mediocrity. 5th place is literally the worst position that you want to finish in this league. Not only because you end up making the playoffs, but you don't even win a round, and then out of the 2 teams that don't win a round, you get the worst draft pick. If I had to choose a single place not to finish in this league, it would be 5th place. But clearly, some people think otherwise. So what I think I'm gonna do is that every time I get asked to come on this show, I will hand out the Mike Visconti Mediocrity Award, or actually, no, it's a bit hard. I'll do the Ham and Throw Mediocrity Award for whichever team finished 5th place the week prior. This week's Ham and Throw Mediocrity Award goes, obviously, to the eponymous Ham and Throw. What I do want to see is actually who will win the Mike Visconti, I'm so sorry, Mike, the Ham and Throw Mediocrity Award for week 1 of this year. So I'm going to scroll back here. I still do not know, actually. I'm going to scroll back to the thing. Click. Let me see, 1, 2, 3. Oh boy, you guys are going to love this. The winner of the Ham and Throw Mediocrity Award for week 1 of the 2023 season of the world's best football players is Ham and Throw. Ham and Throw, repeat champions of the Ham and Throw Mediocrity Award. You'd love to see it.
Week 2 also brought our first week of the Survivor competition where someone would be eliminated. To give an update on Survivor and give our first wheel spin of the year, TNN sends it over to Brett.
Hello all, and welcome back to the Survivor Fantasy Update. We have a lot of updates here for you following the conclusion of week 2, so I'll try to run through everything quickly. First, as a reminder of the picks going on so far, we have 4 of the 12 eliminated, so pour one out for Tom, Grayson, Jacob, and Vanek, especially for Jacob and Vanek going out in week 1 with their picks of the Vikings. As a reminder to everyone, please send me your picks by Sunday before noon kickoff. I will not be as good about the reminders, as I will be celebrating an Irish victory with you all who are going to be in attendance in South Bend this weekend on Saturday. So please get those picks in. The next order of business, this is being filmed on a Tuesday night, so pending any stat corrections. Coochie Gang, headed up by Tom, is the first to be eliminated from Survivor this year with 183.3 points. As a reminder, we'll have a chance to get back in coming up on week 8, where we'll go from 6 remaining back to 7 remaining. Next, we are going to run through all of the wheel options for this year. Thank you especially to Miguel, who gave me some suggestions. We have 20 this year. As a reminder, every single time that something is spun, it will be taken off the wheel. If for any situation there's a tie in any of these categories, the tiebreaker will go to fantasy points for that week. So we'll spin the wheel. It'll be scored off of points from the week previous, and the team with the most of whatever category will be immune in the next week. So here are our 20 categories. The Survivor standings, we've referenced this before. The tiebreaker will be point differential if more than one person remains. Right now, Visconti would be in the lead, so if that was to pop up this week, Visconti and Hammond Throw would be the immune team. We have most amount of points by a taxi squad, individual taxi squad for a team. We have longest field goal made by a starting kicker. We have longest reception made by a starting wide receiver. That has to be in the starting wide receiver spots, can't be in a flex spot. We have most team touchdowns. That's full team, so starters, bench, and taxi squad. We have best manager of the week, highest percentage points in the starting lineup. We have the highest scoring worst starter, so whoever has their worst starter with the most amount of points relative to every other team would be the immune person. We have highest scoring starting offense, highest scoring starting defense, most starting defense sacks, best turnover differential, which would take all the amount of turnovers that your defense forces, both forced fumbles and recoveries would both count, and then you would subtract any offensive turnovers, so fumbles lost and interceptions thrown by quarterback, and that will only be for starters. We have highest rookie score, so one person, does not matter where they're at in your squad, could be starting, bench, or taxi squad. We have most receptions in the starting lineup, so not limited to position, can be wide receiver, running back, flex, as well, and tight end. We have most tackles, has to be in the starting lineup. We have most points by a starting QB. Highest scoring individual bench or taxi squad player. Team record of the full squad, so running through everyone's squads, win 1 point, lost 1 point. And I know that everyone doesn't have a full squad, so it would just be winning percentage then would determine who is immune in that situation. We have most rushing yards in the 2 running back slots, similar to the wide receiver, has to be in the starting running back spots, can't be a flex. Most points in primetime games, that would be Sunday Night Football, and then any game that is played on a different day of the week. So if it came the week of Thanksgiving, all the Thanksgiving games would count. And finally, we have most starting kicker points. So we have 20 different categories. That's the wheel. We're going to pop it up here and give it a spin for our first immunity based on the wheel this year. So there we have it. Our first determination for immunity in week 3 is going to be based on most points scored in prime time, including the full team. So this was a fun one to calculate as we had an extra primetime game this week. There was a big score out of a team, 130.52 points behind the likes of Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Myles Garrett, a lucky injury that gave Jerome Ford a lot of points. But I am sad to announce that the Texarkana Bandits are not immune for next week, as Team Hammond Throw put up 139.44 points, proving that Stinky Mac Jones could do one good thing for him. He had 13 different players that scored in primetime this week, so Hammond Throw will be immune from elimination in week 3. And as a reminder about immunity and how important it can be, Jacob would have been eliminated, blood, sweat, and beers with the lowest amount of points in the week, but was immune via the divisional most amount of points from week 1. I'll catch you guys next week. Our prime time will be eliminated from the wheel, and we'll select from the remaining 19 spots to see who's immune for week 4.
And now, here's Danny Football with his picks for week 3. Hey, what's up, guys? The world's 9 best fantasy football players expert, Danny Football here, back with another week of expert predictions. Last week was pretty good for me, going 4-2, bringing my total on the year to a very nice 8-4 after that stat correction win in my favor in week 1. My guest, Danny, went 3-3 last week, being unable to beat the expert. But now, it's a new week, there's a new guest, and a new chance to beat the expert. So guest, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, all you TNN watchers and listeners out there. I am Tom, the lead owner of Coochie Gang. Won't call it a historic franchise. I feel like that phrase is trademarked around here, but a fan favorite. Happy to be back. I know I have a pretty middling record against our picker here. So I'm hoping to improve on that this week and excited to be back.
Hey, it's a new year, plenty of opportunities to improve the record.
Plenty
against
of
against the expert and in the league.
Also, only 6 opportunities against the expert. So let's see how they go.
All right, first up, we have JK. We're still Mahorny taking on Team M. Vanek. Team M. Vanek favored in this one at 53%. It was very surprising for this expert to see Team M. Vanek favored in anything, but JK has really taken some tough, big hits to their team at the start of the year, and their big splash trade for Breece Hall was kind of a dud last week, so we'll see if they're able to turn it around. But I gotta say, I do respect the move out of the Mahorny crew. They got to go out and get their guy, and some people, I've heard some whispers through the TNN grapevine. Some people thought it was an overpay. This expert does not agree. I think it was a very fair price to pay. I think the Mahorny boys are going to be good. Look, Breece Hall is a top 5 dynasty running back. It's the price you got to pay. So here's to hoping the Jets, hopefully they shake out a little better over the course of the season. You never want a team to just flounder in a trade. For Team M. Vanek, they're actually shaping up to have some very nice young talent, which is bizarre. They got, even just from this year's draft class alone, they got Bijan, Sam Laporta, Jaden Reed, and Tank Dell, all of whom have had very nice starts to the year, looking like very promising players for Team M. Vanek. And, that's how you go and really rebuild a team. All it takes is one draft, and anything could happen. Big thing to watch out for in this matchup is the Saquon injury, newly acquired by JK. If he's not able to go this week, or even more so in the future, it's going to be a big hit for this team. Already had a lot of big hits, but I just cannot, in good faith, pick Team M. Vanek. He's got to show me more than 1 week of putting up over 200 points. I'm going to go with JK in this matchup.
Wow. Yeah, the expert. Kind of going back to an old reliable there. And I do think you made a lot of good points there. I will say, JK still Mahorny returning to first team all name.
True.
And the greatest judge of a trade is time. So we'll see how that turns out. But I do think giving up that much first round capital is hard to see. But maybe Breece Hall will be worth it. But for now, this season, I don't think he is, with Zach Wilson running around in front of him and starting there. I don't think his running back room gets much better right now. that's not to say there isn't a lot of potential and a lot of great names in there. Joe Mixon and Saquon Barkley have shown themselves to be very good fantasy players in the past, and
True.
I'm sure we'll find a way back there in the future. But right now, all three of those offenses are very concerning. So I'm not sure how much I want to believe in J.K. Stillmahorny offensively. And on the other side, Sam Hinkie, like you said, a lot of young talent. Bijan is just sick.
A beast.
Unfortunately, had to watch him just beat up on the Packers. Everyone keeps posting that clip of him making like 5 of the dirtiest cuts in the world, and I have no idea how that man's joints can do any one of those moves. But overall, that makes him an awesome fantasy player to have. It does a little bit concern me that arguably 2 of their most exciting talents are on the same team, kind of eating from the touches. But the fact that they are the running back and wide receiver on that team helps, that being Drake London beside Bijan Robinson. But
yeah, and Drake London scored more than 0 points last week.
yes, which is pretty huge. But I will say, you are right. I will let the commissioner know they have returned to Team Sam Hinkie, or the expert. Sorry, the expert should know that they have returned to Team Sam Hinkie. A big move, big change, trying to compete with the name J.K. Stillmahorny. They can't compete name wise, but I think they also won't be able to compete playing wise. I'm also going to continue to fade Team Sam Hinkie, and I think this one actually is hidden in the defense. You've got defensive Josh Allen playing Houston this week. That's going to line up for a few sacks. And you've got Mike Pulses, I believe, playing against the Cards this week. That's going to line up for about 15 sacks for that man. Playing on a team that's defense looks stellar and being the best player on that defense. I think we're going to see, even despite, some rule changes, some point scoring changes, we might see an all-time week out of Mike Pulses.
Yeah.
And I'm glad these YouTube videos are locked, because I don't need a future employer or my current one hearing me say Mike Pulses 3 times now.
Oh, no, this is public.
Oh, all right. Well, here we go.
All of my editors bleep it out for you.
Well, all right. My pick is J.K. Stillmahorny.
Next up, we have undefeated, never lost, taking on Blood, Sweat, and Beers. Blood, Sweat, and Beers favored at 54%. Tom, who do you like in this matchup?
It's an interesting matchup. I think both quarterbacks have interesting opportunities this week. Tua, the likely starter for Blood, Sweat, and Beers, playing in Denver, who can be a stout defense if their offense decides to make it worth it for them. And Justin Fields playing in Kansas City. So I think it might be tough to see a lot out of the quarterback position from either of them this week. But I do think on the Blood, Sweat, and Beers side, that kind of worry continues down throughout the team. I'm worried about Aaron Jones going down. I don't think he'll be playing this upcoming week either. Jamar, I'm more so worried about the Bengals offense showing up and being the team that they were last year and the year before. Mooney, Bear.
Bad.
Robert Woods on the Texans, also bad. Marvin Jones dropped a donut in a high-scoring game, which you hate to see.
Yeah.
But on the other side, you've got undefeated, never lost. And, they're still, I think, building up their talent. They've had some stock of draft picks, but I do like a few matchups from a couple of their younger pieces, with Travis Etienne playing versus Houston this week and Jackson Smith and Jigba playing against the Panthers. Both teams have really strong defenses. I think I'm going to lean undefeated, never lost this week, though.
Yeah, I like that pick, actually. This is a big matchup here. Both 0-2 teams. Going 0-3 is probably going to end one of these teams' seasons. I know that Blood, Sweat, and Beers would probably be very happy with that result. Undefeated, never lost. Obviously not. I think they're trying to win, but this is a team, they just seem addicted to draft picks. Like any young prospect they get, they for some reason end up trading away at some point. Najee, Brees Hall. I don't know. I mean, eventually they got to keep these guys and try to compete. I thought this was going to be the year, but like I said, Miguel is just a different kind of beast. He cannot be stopped. I really liked the trade that Blood, Sweat, and Beers made. They got a lot of draft capital trading with the Bandits, and clearly the tank is on. They were able to dump a lot of their high scoring defensive guys, which is only going to help keep their max points for down at the end of the year, really bump up their draft pick, which I think is going to be very nice for them in this upcoming draft. I don't think that either of these teams, though, is really ready for the limelight. Look, they're in the league, but they're not in the big leagues. Undefeated, never lost. They don't even have two viable running backs on their roster, and Jacob of Blood, Sweat, and Beers also has, unironically, last week started someone who has gotten less than 5% snap share in both of the two games so far this season. Rodriguez on the Commanders, whose first name the expert does not even know. Really tough matchup to pick. Do not have a lot of love for either of these teams right now. I think one of the teams is happy that I don't have a lot of love for them, but congratulations, undefeated, never lost. I'm going with you guys this week. Next up, we have the Mental Brick Walls taking on Team Big Chungus 22. Brick Walls favored here at 55%. Brick Walls coming into this one after just demoralizing loss to Team Mvanek last week. This is a team that has definitely had their sights set on the championship, and that is just not the kind of game you can afford to be losing early in the season. Still some time to recover, but you do not want to lose to Team Mvanek. For Big Chungus, there's really just not too much to say. I was very sad to hear that Mr. Big Chungus himself decided to renew his rivalry with TNN after I thought that we had buried the hatchet last year and had smoothed things over, moved on.
Like I said, great to be here, as always. I'd love to do it again sometime. I'm Danny Football has 20 friends, man. Let's end this bad blood between us.
But not great. Big Chungus coming after me, coming after TNN. I do have to say, though, I was glad to hear that Will was a loyal fan of the show last week and watched. We're going to see if he is loyal enough to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell. But that's, story for a different day. Loyal fans of the show will know to give Will some kind words, some encouragement down in the comments below, because I am absolutely not picking him this week. I'm going with the Brick Walls.
Yeah, Mr. Expert, I think that's a good analysis, both of team and of character of ownership. I am excited to have, more viewers, especially, a commissioner of it or a owner of a team, join the viewership numbers. But of course, if you're not liking, commenting, and subscribing, you might as well not be viewing at all. So
True.
I'd like to see some more of that out of Will, to really prove his commitment to Big Chungus 22 in this league. That being said, he could also prove his commitment to Team Big Chungus 22 and this league by having a better team, which he does not. And especially not this week. I think the Mental Brick Walls are a team that's got some good things going for them. And in particular, they've got some great matchups with Trevor Lawrence playing the Texans, Josh Jacobs playing the Steelers, Kenneth Walker playing the Panthers, and Kittle playing against the Giants. A bunch of bottom tier defenses kind of going into the season and haven't really shown up at all this season from any of those teams. Unless Big Chungus 22 has favorable matchups for all of his players, which he does not. I don't really see him winning this one. So I'm absolutely joining you and giving it to the Mental Brick Walls.
You just wait. Team Big Chungus 22, the Sharks are going to be circling in a couple of weeks. Tyreek is going to be looking awfully tasty on the trade block. You're here first. Next up, we have Ham and Throw taking on Coochie Gang. Koo currently favored in this one at 54%. Tom, Who do you like in this matchup?
Who I like and who I'm going to pick are pretty similar. I like myself a lot. Anyway, looking at this
That's
matchup,
growth right there.
yeah, we haven't heard that one before, literally. Looking at this matchup, I think if you look at Coochie Gang, you see 0-2, and that worries you if you're thinking about picking them. They've had 2 sub 200 performances thus far, and in our new and improved league format of 2 additional flex players, 1 on offense, 1 on defense. Or is it 2 on offense, 1 on defense? I've already forgotten the new rules.
1 on both.
Had it right the first time. In our new and improved league with 1 on both, I think sub 200 is just not going to cut it most weeks, unless you're playing the Coochie Gang in the first 2 weeks. Now, both of them have been borderline games, but that still isn't encouraging. Frankly, you want to see the team above 200, but I think this team has had the players there to get themselves comfortably above 200, and their ownership is just not putting in the work to make substitutions, forgetting for another season in a row that they live on the West Coast and have to make changes before like 10 a.m. So that means waking up and seeing who's injured. That being said, I think that Coochie Gang has some excellent matchups if they decide to make the right substitutions, particularly on defense, but also I think Madison, Adams, and Calvin Ridley all have favorable matchups this week. So I think they're going to put up a lot of points. And ham and throw, it's ham and throw. So I've got the Coochie Gang this week.
Tom, there's a very simple solution to having to wake up early to check your lineup, and that is simply moving to the East Coast.
I can't imagine ever saying I'd want to do that.
For this matchup, first, I'd just like to take a moment to congratulate Mike Visconti on building a winning football team and, taking home that 5th highest score last week. Truly an accomplishment, and it really cannot get better than this for Ham and Throw. This is it. Loyal fans of the show, go down in the comments, congratulate Mike Visconti on his 5th place finish in the league, week 2. You got to just, kudos to the man. Very impressive. I've never seen a more impressive feat. Who, on the other hand, the Coochie Gang has been off to a very rough start, contrary to what's going on Ham and Throw's side, where it's just sunshine and rainbows everywhere. Who, down in the dumps, cloudy, it's raining. They've had 2 just disappointing weeks so far. Stat correction loss, survivor pool not going their way. Madison, who they thought was going to be a big contributor this year, also has been very mediocre at best. Some experts are saying they might need to be worried about him down the stretch. And Tom, the fans will know that the expert usually picks against the guest. In fact, I almost always pick against the guest when they come on the show, but this Coochie Gang team is going up against a Ham and Throw team that I just cannot stand. I want my name nowhere near being associated with this Ham and Throw team, and I look forward to seeing Ham and Throw on the outside of the playoffs looking in yet again this year. I'm going to go with the Coochie Gang in this matchup. Moving on, we have the Judon Noodles taking on Bart Harley, Jarvis Landry. Judon Noodles favored in this one at 52%. Word on the street is the Noodles owner, Timmy, has been bragging about his impressive bench depth. We're going to see how his team holds up this week. It just seems like, when you go around talking about your depth, that's just asking for your team to get cursed with a lot of injuries. So I hope he has been knocking on a lot of wood this week. I don't know, just bad vibes all around with the Judon Noodles. A team that could really use some depth right now, though, is Bart Harley. Eckler going to be out for a little bit, and they don't really have too many viable candidates on the bench who are going to be able to come in and really contribute in their starting lineup. I don't want to say yet it's time to sound the alarms for this Bart Harley team, but if things don't go their way, they're without their first round pick and things could be going south for them really quick. It pains me to think of, as I said before, draft pick addicted Miguel and undefeated never lost, getting a good first round pick out of Bart Harley here. Ultimately, though, I think Judon Noodles is just a better team, top to bottom. They've got that depth. We'll see if it suits them this week. I'm going with the Judon Noodles in this one.
Yeah, Mr. Expert, I like what you're saying here. These are two teams both in my division this year, in the same division as the Coochie Gang. And so these are the two teams and the only two teams that I'll have to fight for, a lot of wins this season, and kind of being the top of the division, setting myself up well for the playoffs. And so, I feel like I'm an expert in where these teams are at. And thinking about them, we've got Bart Harley, Jarvis Landry, like you mentioned. Austin Eckler is hurt. I think his points are still showing, contributing to their projection.
That's fake news. Fake news.
So without those, it's only leaning more heavily towards the nudes. But on top of that, you've got players like Brandon Ayuk limited right now, and Jalen Phillips is out week 2. He's showing projected numbers, but he probably won't play in week 3, let alone be a major contributor if he does play. And DJ Moore, often considered a good player, projected to score a lot of points, is on the Bears, so he won't be doing much.
Hey, that first drive of the game, DJ Moore will get some points though.
Sick, yeah. And then on the Judon Noodle side, I think they do have a lot of favorable matchups for their offense, which bodes well. You don't need depth when your starters are playing teams like Lamar Jackson taking on the Colts, Christian McCaffrey taking on the Giants, and Isaiah Pacheco and Travis Kelce taking on the ever so wonderful Chicago Bears this week. So I think they'll be putting up a lot of numbers offensively. And Bart Harley, Jarvis Landry, with a lot of players who are iffy or out, won't be able to keep up, even if those players are on the field on Sunday. So I'm also going to have to hand this one to the Judon Noodles. We often, you as the expert, try to pick against the guest pickers team that week. I try to be counterculture and find a good pick to go against the expert, but I just haven't found it yet.
You never know. There's 6 matchups for a reason. Finally, in our marquee matchup of the week, we have the Texarkana Bandits taking on the SWAT team. This one currently 50-50. Tom, who do you like in this matchup?
An interesting thing about this matchup for me, and obviously make what you want out of sleeper projections. We all do or don't. But this week, the first 5 matchups are all averaging roughly 170 projected points per team. Whereas this matchup, we're seeing projections of over 200 for both teams. So I think we're finding our first real marquee matchup kind of the season. This is, I think, the biggest game we'll see played so far. It'll have big playoff implications and give us a good sign of where the season is going for the league overall, as well as these two kind of powerhouse teams. And so that being said, it makes it a really tough pick. But I think when I break it down, looking at the teams, I kind of can figure out where I'm going to go. Looking at the Texarkana Bandits, he's got Tony Pollard playing against the Arizona Cardinals, as well as CeeDee Lamb, and their team has been firing on all cylinders so far this season. JJ the Jet Plane is playing against the Chargers, who, although I love and can put up some good offense, are terribly coached and don't play good defense. And AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are playing against Tampa, which is a bottom half defense. They play in a light division down in the NFC South, but it's still not much to play for them right now. Probably not seeing themselves as much of a playoff team. So I think Tampa Bay won't be able to put up that much of a fight against a very strong offense and two strong receivers. Whereas on the SWAT team side, I know we've seen some good seasons and good games out of Daniel Jones, but he does suck, especially this season. And
Great
he is
fantasy player,
playing,
though.
yeah, great fantasy player, tremendous fantasy player, playing against the San Francisco 49ers this week, who will probably eat him alive.
Yeah.
Good guy. Nick Chubb, unfortunately, going down with what looks to be a season-ending injury.
Industry.
Industry. Man of industry going down with a season-ending injury, which is tough for the SWAT team and for the Browns. But the Browns support Deshaun Watson, so too bad. He's also got players like Jacoby Myers, who is concussed this past week, so he might not be all there this week. And a top defensive player for them, Jalen Jalen,
Something like that.
Yeah,
the guy in the Texans.
Yes, the guy in the Texans who scores a lot of points at defensive back. He had a bruised lung this week, which
coughing up blood.
Yeah, I don't know how you play a good game 1 week after bruising your lung. I can't imagine it's fun to breathe, let alone be on the field a lot. So I don't see him getting many downs. And that's just, 4 key players for them. But I think 4 key players is a lot when you're going up against the Bandits. And so I'm going to have to go with an expert favorite here, the Texarkana Bandits, to win this week.
Yeah, that's a good pick here. This is a fantastic marquee matchup, exactly like you said. 2 high-powered teams. We've got the 3-time defending champ going against the upstart, probably the favorite to win it all this year, at least after week 2. They made that big trade. They were already good. I'm very excited to see what the Bandits do this year. Look, SWAT team is certainly coming into this one hobbled. They've got Rodgers done for the year, Nick Chubb done for the year, Deontay Johnson's on IR, but this is a team that you should never count out. Their defense, always solid, and their bench guys can, sometimes have decent weeks, especially if you got to just plug them in for 1 week. Unfortunately for them, though, they're going up against the Bandits. And fans of the show will know that I am high on the Bandits. For our weekly Trayvon Walker update, week 2, he had a very modest 6 points last week, but if you go and really look at the tape, you'll see that he was, out there giving it his all. Really a fantastic effort. And my personal read is he had a lower points total last week because he was being a true team player for the Bandits and wanted to give new acquisitions like Myles Garrett and Brian Burns some time to shine, some time to, really get acquainted with all the Bandits fans and get some of that love from their rabid fan base over in Texarkana. I mentioned this last week with the Bandits and their scouting department with Puka. Another shout out to the Bandits scout team. Sorry, not scout team. Their scouting team. They already had Jerome Ford on their roster from last December, saving them from what could have been a very expensive fab bidding war this week, getting who is very clearly going to be the number 1 pickup across all fantasy leagues. I think this matchup is going to be very close. I'm very interested to see how this turns out. Like you said, big playoff implications. This is about not just this week, not just this season. This is about the future of the league. I think it's time for a new generation. I'm going to go with the Bandits to take the win in this one.
Wow. I was sure the expert was going to be high on the SWAT team.
Look, as an expert, it's my job to call balls and strikes. Everything I say on the show is unbiased, nothing but the truth. And look, if SWAT team had Nick Chubb, maybe they'd stand a chance, but got to go with the Bandits this week.
Yeah, I do think this is the week where the SWAT team starts to pay for not having a new team name this season.
Yeah, Yeah, big oversight on the commissioner's part there. Well, Tom, thank you so much for being on the show this week. It was great to have you. Wishing you all the best of luck with your picks, of course. Not as good as me, can't beat the expert, but again, thank you for being on, and I look forward to seeing you next year because you're definitely not beating me this year.
I swear I had I obviously thought you were going to pick the SWAT team, but I think I had one more pick where I was definitely like, he's going to go the other way. And once I started just looking at my poorly written notes, I was like, who was I going to flip on? I don't
Can't
know.
do it. You can't outmaneuver the expert like that.
Yeah.
And thank you, Danny Football and guest Tom, for those great picks. That's all we have for you this time. Be sure to tune in next week to see how things shook out. I'm your host, and this has been TNN.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell.